Well, welcome to Ultra Dad. Our next guest is an amazing athlete. He's run 40 plus ultras and numerous other, maybe hundreds of other distances. He has two kids, 10 and 7. He lives just down the road from me. His name is Ross Beveridge. Welcome to the show, Ross.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you very much to Roger for making the introduction. I'm super excited to hear all about your next challenges and what's coming up and what you've achieved so far. So I guess where I really wanted to get started was what started you on your running journey.
I started running back in 2012. I got married the same year, and my wife likes to joke that as soon as I got married, I started running away, and I haven't really stopped. So that's kind of when I started running. The first time I ever ran was on honeymoon, actually, and it was just because the weather was crap on the honeymoon, and we had a nice big hotel gym to play with, and I went on the treadmill for 10 minutes there, and that was me exhausted for the day. And then I decided to just kind of keep it up once we got back home, because when you get married, the lady tends to go on the wedding diet to try and fit into the dress, whereas I went the opposite way and I was just stress eating the whole time. So I was on weight before the wedding, so I decided to try and shift it after we were married. So that was the inspiration to start running. And anyone else who's never run, I ran as a kid, really, apart from the usual kind of running around. I did everything I could to try and avoid cross country at school and that kind of thing. So I was never a runner when I was younger. Into it in later life because it was an accessible, cheap way to keep fit and lose a bit of weight, and it's kind of got a bit excessive from that point onwards.
Yeah, so were you like, I need to lose a bit of weight. I've had all this all-inclusive honeymoon food. Now I better do something, or did you have a plan at that point, or was it just running? Let's do it.
No, it was kind of just start doing something, because I've gone from being like an ex-smoker. I used to work in hospitality, so there was a lot of kind of heavy nights out and drinking and just excessive lifestyle. All through my kind of 20s, and I eventually quit smoking. That was at least 10 years I smoked for, and it was like a proper smoking habit. It was like 20 plus a day. And I gave all that up before I got married. Obviously, when you're not smoking and things like that, you tend to, and you're getting older, bit of weight, and you start eating more. So getting over that was kind of just the thing you do with your hands. You need to do something with your hands when you're not smoking anymore. So it was reaching for food all the time. So I was just constantly eating. Or hugely fat, but I was definitely unhealthy and starting to notice weight gain. So that was the driving force behind the running.
Did you just start? You did the treadmill, and then did you go for an event, or what did you do at that point?
Yeah, I mean, there was no real plan. When we came back from honeymoon, it was literally just running out from the house along to the end of the road and back, which was half a mile out, half a mile back, and I was destroyed. I was panting, leaning on a lamppost, all that kind of stuff. And then just did that a few times, and gradually it just got less painful to do that. And then I went 2 streets away, and then a couple of streets away, and then I just started feeling like, okay, I quite like this now. I'm not dying and coughing my lungs up anymore. So after, I don't even know how long until my first event. First event was like a charity 5K thing that we did in Edinburgh, Heart Foundation 5K. It was around like Arthur's Seat. No idea what I was doing. I had no kind of training. I had no kind of about training for an event or what an event entailed. I literally just turned up on the day in these banged up old pair of trainers that didn't fit. Just a big bottle of water, and that was it. And I nearly died because I had no idea that we were running up and round Arthur's Seat, which is no small hill for someone that's not used to it.
So you mentioned it was just a matter of taking action. You didn't have the shoes, you didn't have the shorts, you didn't have anything. You just went for it.
Pretty much, yeah. There was no plan. I never had any ideas of doing marathons or getting faster or anything. I was purely running because it was just accessible. I didn't need any equipment. I didn't need any schedule. I could go out for a run whenever I had time. There's no kind of set class. I wasn't doing any kind of fitness classes or weights classes or going to gym. I didn't have a gym membership, anything like that. So it was just the accessibility of being able to just put on my shoes and run out the front door. And I never had any aspirations to do a marathon until later, when I'd done my 5K and then kind of just started moving up to 10K to half marathon and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, what were you telling yourself at that point then to motivate you or get you going? Was there a set goal in terms of, I want to lose X amount of weight, or was it, I want to just complete this race and feel good?
At that point, like I say, I wasn't overly heavy. I didn't ever feel like I was fat. I just felt like I was getting fat. So I didn't have, I want to lose X amount of pounds or X amount of stone. I just wanted to not, I just wanted to kind of stop the slide, and get a healthier lifestyle. Because I was obviously getting, I wasn't getting old, but I was kind of in my 30s now, and I couldn't continue to live like I was in my 20s. So I just wanted a healthier lifestyle that wasn't drinking and eating all the time and sitting about the house. So that was it. And there was no plan beyond that until I started doing distances and not feeling terrible afterwards and thinking, okay, well, if I can do this, can I then go and do this? And if I can do that, well, can I then go and do that? And that's kind of the way my brain works. It's always been like that. I've always kind of gone all in on things, whether it's drinking or drugs or cigarettes or whatever. It's like there's no half measures. It's like, if I'm into this, I'm going right into this, and that was it. And it was the same with the running. So obviously a healthier expression of that personality trait than the others.
Did you notice when you were training any of those big late nights and fags every day? Did they catch up on you throughout the training? Did we hocking things up, or what did that look like?
Not really. Once I started training, it was okay because I'd quit smoking and drugs and things earlier. It wasn't a case that I was just going cold turkey into something else. So I'd kind of come out of that way of that lifestyle and hacking up anything. I was just out of shape, as a lot of people are, and you just find yourself, see if there was anyone looking at you before you'd kind of stop and put your hands on your knees and your head down and catch your breath and then get going again.
Yeah. So what was the furthest you could run when you very first started? Was it only a mile, or like you said?
Yeah, I mean, to the end of the street, and my wife Alice came with me. She had a more healthy lifestyle, gymnastics coach, and she had done high level of gymnastics when she was a kid and when she was a teenager. Quite a kind of a healthy outlook on things. And so, I mean, she's not a runner, and she to this day hates running. She just doesn't enjoy running. It's not her thing. But her influence of the health side of things just kind of rubbed off on me. So she would come out and run to the end of the road and back with me, and then I'd die a little bit back at the house, and then rally and get back to it again. But she was the one that kind of, I wouldn't say inspired me to run, but she definitely chummed me along at the start.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, fast forward a little bit, and you've just completed your first marathon. What are you feeling at this point, and what are you thinking? Are you thinking marathon and done, or are you thinking get better, or you're going all in at this point, or what are you thinking?
Yeah, well, I mean, like I say, it was a progression. I went from 5K to doing 10K, and then it was just kind of like I did a couple of 10Ks, and then moved up to half marathon, which was the Edinburgh half marathon. And that was the first time I felt like, wow, like of a big event. The rest had all just been kind of slightly local things and shorter distances, so it wasn't like a mass participation event. So at marathon, you were able to kind of look around and see marathon runners and like proper athletes and just the amount of people that were doing it, and like all shapes and sizes of people that were on the start line, and you were able to gauge yourself against people, and also not. You look at someone beside you and think, all right, I've got them in this, and then a couple of miles later they're flying past you, just leaving you for dead. So it was kind of an eye opener to a mass participation event for half. So once I got the half under my belt, I was absolutely wanting to go and try and do the full, and that was at that point, that was as much as I had in my viewfinder. I'd never even heard of an ultramarathon at that point, so I didn't think there was anything greater you could do than a marathon. And that statistics that only 0.01 of the population have done a marathon or something like that in their life, and I thought that was the pinnacle of running, and that was all I ever wanted to do. So it was absolutely going to be a one and done if I managed to do the marathon. And and it just kind of it's gone on a bit from there.
How did you get on with that very first marathon?
Well, that first marathon, it was hard. I mean, there's no doubt about it. I think I was about 4:30 maybe, which is okay. I was quite happy at that time. I was really sort of struggling. I hit the wall at 18 miles as people do, and I had all the gear and no idea. Like the phone on the arm, and I had the water bottle with a hole in it, and I was thinking I was the bee's knees, and I had a proper pair of running shoes instead of just like an old pair of trainers that I had in the back of the cupboard. So once I did that, and I was really proud of myself after doing that, and my family came to see me at the end, and mum and dad and sister were there with my name on their t-shirts and all that kind of stuff. I was absolutely happy with that, and I was like, yeah, that's me done. And then kind of after my legs stopped hurting about a week later, I found myself like looking for another marathon to do, and that's when it started to become a bit of a problem.
So when did kids enter the picture? Was this during this process, or was this after you've run the first marathon? When did the young ones arrive?
Yeah, well, Aria, my daughter, she came along in 2013, so I was running at this stage, still probably half marathon. She was a wee baby when I was doing those kind of distances. She was just coming along with Alice in the carrier on her front, and she was just dressed up with holding a little flag and this kind of thing as well. So we had the first baby then, so it was a case of kind of juggling. We didn't have as much free time as we did beforehand, but it was. I think Alice thought it was going to be a case of one and done as well, so she indulged my time away from home and baby to go and train for this one marathon, and then so
Yeah.
it was a lot more. It was easier to juggle then because it was just a one and done, I think.
Were you fitting in training sort of before work, after work, in the evenings, early mornings? What did that look like?
I was trying to remember back that far. I think I was just doing it in the evenings because I still worked in hospitality then, so I was kind of late home from work, and I usually didn't start until maybe the afternoon the next day, so I had time in the morning to go out and do a bit. The marathon and the half marathon, I don't think training was something that I did. I just kind of went and ran when I had free time. There was no speed work, there was no hills, there was no interval sessions, none of that. I didn't even know what that was. I had no idea. I didn't really know anyone who ran either. So I was just, because where we live, it's quite, it's out in the sticks. So we didn't really have any kind of big community of friends. No one having influence on me, and I wasn't going out to running clubs and all that kind of stuff. I didn't have anyone like that me out for a regular thing. I was just going out when I had time. So if that meant just juggling the kids and having to go out early morning, I could do that.
So at what point did you think to yourself, you've become a runner? Because you said you were never a runner.
Yeah.
At what point? Was there a one point, or like you said, there's this gradual process? But was there a time where you're like, I'm a runner now, or I'm an ultra runner? What did that look like for you?
Yeah, I think when I was running most days of the week, like whether it was just a mile or 10 miles, it was when I was running most days of the week, I felt like, okay, I'm probably a runner now, because I wasn't a drinker and I wasn't a smoker. I was now a runner. And when it became the most common habit in my life, that's when I thought I'm a runner. But there are runners and there are runners, and I think it's a lot more serious these days. Got to the stage where someone started calling me an athlete, and that was a huge change to try and accept that kind of that word in my life. I could be a runner because that was just a fun thing, but athletes were proper sportsmen. They went to the Olympics and that kind of stuff. So I never really saw myself as an athlete until a lot later.
Tell me a little bit more about that. Someone said you're an athlete, or
Yeah, well, it was when I eventually took on coaching, and someone called basically says the athletes that I coach and stuff, and I was like, yeah, well, I'm not an athlete, so I can't really put myself in that bracket. And he was saying, no, you are an athlete because this is what you do. You have an athlete lifestyle. You eat like an athlete. You train like an athlete. The decisions you make in your day-to-day life focus around running. A lot of the decisions that you're making when you get out of bed in the morning are dictated by running, and that's what athletes do. So if that's what you do, that you're an athlete, and that kind of changed my mindset, thinking about it like that. Whereas before, running had just been a hobby. Whereas when it was more serious, and when I had coaching and I was paying for coaching, and I was scheduling work and other things around my ability to run, that's kind of when I felt that change came.
So you, with the coach being the turning point, were you then optimizing sleep, food, hydration?
Yeah, all that kind of stuff. Started, and I mean that's only the last couple of years. That's happened. So in life is kind of built around the running now. If I need to do X amount of miles this day, that means I have to get up at 4 a.m. and go and do that because I then need to come home and get the kids to school and so on and so forth. So it's looking at your day and thinking, I need to get my run in. So how do I where do I fit that in amongst everything else? And that's where the conversations and the allowances of the family are quite important in juggling that.
Tell me a little bit about your routine then and those conversations. Are you having them with your wife and kids? Are you sitting down with your wife to chat about it in the evenings? How does the dynamic work?
Yeah, well, the dynamic kind of I ummed and ahed about getting a coach for a long time, and I mean I'm talking maybe 2-3 years. First started running ultras, it was just off my own back, and I was going out running just long days and long easy runs a lot of the days. So I'd go out in the morning and go out and do a couple of hours, and then I'd do that 3-4 times a week. Saturday, so that would be maybe 4 or 5 hours again in the morning. So that was roughly my schedule. But when I took on coaching, more structured. So you've got your interval sessions, you've got your hill sessions that are on kind of specific days. You've got your long run at the weekend, other shorter easy runs during the week. So that kind of structure was what I needed at the time to progress from that point. But before I took on coaching, it was definitely a case of having a conversation with Alice, my wife, and saying, this is something that I'm really interested in. It's obviously going to have an impact on everybody in the household because I'm going to have scheduled regular time away, and because it's of ultra distance, it's going to need to be a lot of hours. So clearing that with Alice and making sure she was okay and accepting of that was important, because if she turned around and said, no, I'm not willing to take on that kind of extra burden of the kids and stuff to allow you to go out, then it was a non-starter. So that conversation had to be had before the coaching even started. And like I said, luckily she was amenable to that. So
yeah, I mean, I still got to tell my wife that I'm going to get a bit more serious about ultra running.
have that conversation first.
Any advice, or maybe hit you up after. But sure. Any advice, maybe you just tell us now. Any advice around having that conversation with your wife? So perhaps the another dad that's listening is thinking, okay, I want to take this a bit more seriously. Maybe they've completed one marathon and they want to go to that next step. What advice would you give them?
I think you just have to be honest to know where you want to get to and what's involved. Current plan, I have 5 days a week, and when it's into peak training period, it's 6 days a week. it's a big commitment. It's a lot of hours and time on feet, and it's not just the running itself. It's the getting up and fueling yourself, having your breakfast and things before you go. It's then coming home afterwards, having a shower, and yourself fed afterwards. And if long run, if I'm going out and running 30 miles on a Saturday morning, I'm going to be tired on a Saturday afternoon, so I'm going to be pretty useless at looking after kids. And if the kids want to go out to trampolining or soft play or something, that's going to be tough. So you have to know what's involved before you start, and then have that conversation with your wife, with your partner, with your kids and that kind of stuff, and make them aware of how much this means to you, and if it's something that they're willing to accept going forward. This is they're going to have to pull up some of the slack, because it is. I mean, ultra running is quite a lonely sport in terms of what you're doing. You're out for a long time on your own, but it's absolutely a team sport in terms of you need a lot of support from people around you to allow you to do this sort of thing. And that's maybe work involved as well. As lucky as me that is kind of self-employed and can kind of dictate their own hours. So if you need to do flexi time or something to fit in runs early morning or that kind of thing, these conversations need to be had as well.
What sort of work are you doing to align with your running? You're self-employed, but what is that?
Yeah, well, I'm a self-employed dog walker. I've got a dog walking business which I've been doing for 14 years. So it's really a kind of a lifestyle job. It's kind of starting at 10, finishing at 2, 3. So it's very flexible in terms of allowing me the time before and after, and it's obviously quite an active job as well. So I can get a kind of base fitness out of it. It allows me the time to do what I need outside of it, and also fit in the family time. I can get the kids away to school in the morning before I start work, and then I'm home in time to get them off the bus when they come home, and weekends free and all that kind of stuff. So
that's perfect. I mean, the dog walking, plenty of time on your feet. You're almost active all day. That fits perfectly into the ultra running lifestyle.
yeah, it's kind of.
Do you have any space for another dog?
Oh, maybe. As long as it's well behaved.
Oh, he's still a puppy. He's lying next to me just now. Yeah, how did you get into dog walking? Was it something just to fit in with the ultra? Was that something you really wanted to do?
Yeah, no,
Tell
that
me a
was
little bit about that.
so that was before the running as well. That kind of happened because I was commuting from East Lothian into Edinburgh to do hospitality, and the hours and the wages were not great, and I just felt like it wasn't something I wanted to do going forward. I'd done it for a long time, and dealing with the public is not for me, shall we say. Change, but I didn't really know what I wanted to do. So we had a dog walker at the time that looked after our dog while we were both at work, and I just thought, I stopped working in Edinburgh, and while I was deciding what to do, I thought I'll just start doing this part time, and I could do this while I figure out what I want to do, or while I find another job that's more local, and that kind of thing. And it turned out that that's what job I was going to do. It was only ever supposed to be a temporary thing, but like I say, 14 years later, I'm still doing it. So, and I love it.
Amazing. Awesome. No, it seems like a perfect marriage between work and what you want to try and achieve in an ultra. Let's just look at your ultra journey then. What led you to your first ultra, and secondly, what's the big challenge or goal at the moment?
Well, my first ultra was the Jedburgh Three Peaks Ultra, which is 38 miles down the borders at Jedburgh, and it goes over the three Eildon Hills, which are quite steep hills down in the borders. Didn't really know what an ultramarathon was back then. I had initially signed up for the Jedburgh half marathon, and I got injured and couldn't run it. And on the same billing as the Jedburgh half marathon was the Jedburgh Three Peaks ultramarathon, and that was the first time I'd ever heard of the word ultramarathon. And I was looking at it thinking, that's crazy. You can't possibly, having run a marathon of 26.2, I was like, you can't possibly run 38 miles. My first introduction to kind of a trail event as well. So I was like, it's not even on a road, it's in the hills and along rivers and things. That sounds crazy. When I got injured for the Jedburgh half, I went back the next year to kind of reapply and do it again. And for some reason, I'd done the marathon in the intermediate time. So I was no longer interested in the half marathon. So I remembered that there was an ultra marathon on that same billing. So I went back and signed up for the ultra marathon instead. That was a tough day out. I was not prepared for what I had let myself in for that day. I was broken. I was really broken at the end. There's a video I've got of me coming up the final hill and went up to the finish line, and I crossed the line and I just burst into tears. I was absolutely, like, mentally, physically, emotionally just done. And I'd hurt my knee coming down the third hill, and I'd basically had to hobble back the last 18 miles. And it was just a rough day out, a really bad day out. But it kind of just lit a bit of a fire in me, because I'd had such a bad day out and I wanted to do better. So I was determined to go back and do that one again. So I think I was one of the last finishers that day. I think I was 15 seconds away from the cut-off at the finish line. So I barely made it. And then the next year I went back and I took 2 hours off my time, because I was just more prepared and I knew what I was letting myself in for. And to this date, that's still the only trophy I have, is the most improved performance at Jedburgh Three Peaks. So by taking 2 hours off my time. So
What
that
did
was
you learn?
Yeah, that was where the ultra journey started. And it was just a case of I went out and had a really, really tough time. And you obviously, in the aftermath, you're looking at it going, my God, how did the winner finish in whatever it was, 4 or 5 hours, something like that? And it had taken me nearly 10. And I was like, right, I need to get better, and surely I can get better, even if it's just 10 minutes better, and not feeling terrible at the end. That would be a win for me. So that's where the ultra journey started for me.
Yeah. What did you learn in the process that has taken you to your next goal?
Everything really. It's kind of gone on from there. You learn about nutrition, you learn about pacing, you learn about training properly. You have to, like I say, back then I wasn't doing intervals or hills or any kind of anything like that. I had a backpack with like my weekly shop in it. There's so much food in the back there that I took with me and just never ate. And these days I'm a bit more streamlined. I know what I'm doing. I know what I'm going to need and what I'm not going to need. Just learning the whole thing. You have to learn the community aspect of ultra running is amazing. It's like everyone from first to last is there for each other, and that was one of the biggest things that I took out of the ultra community and starting to run ultra marathons. And that's still what keeps me coming back. I think is the people. It's not necessarily the events. It's just all my friends now are ultra runners or supporters of ultra runners or than ultras in some way, and I keep seeing the same people all the time at various events all over the country, and it's such an amazing, inclusive community that's what makes you keep wanting to go back.
Yeah, I agree. That's just surprised me actually when I did my ultra, how social everyone was and willing to chat to you all along the way. Just on that, tell me, you've learned quite a lot in those first couple of years and first couple of ultras.
Mm-hmm.
What's next for you? I mean, you're 40 ultras plus? You're not sure of the number.
Yeah.
But what's next? What's the challenge for you now?
The challenge for me is difficult to say because there's always something bigger. There's always something longer, tougher, more spectacular. And that's been the case since I started running ultras. It's always been next. As soon as you cross the line, it's right. What's next? As part of the community thing, but when you're speaking to people that are doing these races, you talk about the races you've done and the races you want to do, and people will say things to you during a race, and it will stick in your head, and you think, "Oh, I quite fancy that," and you know, oh, that sounds tough. I know that sounds amazing, and you just get in your head and make you think, all right, I quite fancy having a go at that. So in terms of the next thing, immediately I've started running backyard ultras in the last year or so. For anyone who doesn't know what a backyard ultra is, it's basically just over a 4-mile loop that you have to complete starting on the hour every hour until there's no one left. So it's like a last one standing type thing. I've got quite into them because it suits my particular skill set, which is a good engine but not particularly fast. And when you're doing marathon running, everyone asks you what your time is, but when you do ultra running, everyone just asks if you finish. And that's something else I loved about the ultra kind of scene. You know, it wasn't all about time and speed. There's different ways of running, and it seems to suit me because I'm medium speed, and that I can just go for a long time. Getting back to your question, the next immediate thing for me is in 3 weeks' time, I'm going to be running in Team Scotland at the Four Nations Backyard Ultra. So it's in Scotland, England, Ireland, Wales in an open competition standing.
Wow, that sounds super exciting. How do you prepare for something like that?
It's basically just an endurance challenge. So it's as long as you've got the kind of base fitness, you just have to keep yourself going. And so a lot of it isn't about necessarily running; it's about your management on the day. You know, you have to keep fueling. You have to take care of any physical issues like blisters or injuries or that kind of thing. In order to keep going, because if you can't get round the 4.1 miles in the time, then you're out. So it's all about just keeping going and keeping going. You have to practice fueling. You have to practice dealing with sleep deprivation, because, like I say, you have to do 4 miles on the hour. There's no time to sleep. You can't just like sleep for an hour and then get up and go again because you're out. You have to be able to deal with that. You have to think about those tactics as well. You know, a lot of people want to go and run the hour fast so that they can get home and then get back to camp and then get a break so that they can have a sleep or have some food or whatever. And other people like to just run really slow and then so that they're not stopping and getting cold and seizing up before they go again. So there's a lot of tactics and things involved. So I think you have to learn what works for you and what doesn't.
What works for you, and what are your tactics? What is that top secret?
No, it's not really top secret. I mean, I'm quite lucky in the sense that I can eat anytime. Things not usually an issue for me because I can kind of drip feed myself food without having kind of huge meals and things. Just eat little and often. It's fine. I can just keep going. I don't really do well with the sleep deprivation, so I struggle during the night. But that's something that I'm just going to have to work on, and you know, you just have to kind of get yourself through any way you can, mainlining the coffee and just keeping yourself going, just and hope that the sun comes up soon, and it's your body kind of resets itself. Just try not to do anything stupid. Try not to fall. Try not to run yourself into the ground. Don't go out too hard too early. Yourself. Don't get drawn into running alongside someone who's going too fast for you or too slow. You know, you have to run your own race. So that's kind of the tips that I've got so far.
You'd think, being in hospitality, that the sleep deprivation might be a winner for you.
Yeah.
How long are you thinking you'll need to stay up? Will you cat nap? Will you try and power nap?
I mean, people can kind of schedule power naps like that. People can say, right, I'm going to go to sleep for 6 minutes and set an alarm and wake up in 6 minutes and go again. I can't do that. I've tried. It just doesn't work for me. And absolutely pass out and wake up after 5 seconds and feel like I'm okay again. Not something that I can plan. Things that a lot of people say parents can deal with because they've had sleepless nights with babies and that kind of thing. I think there's a way to train for it. Your body isn't supposed to be up all night. You know, in nature, you're supposed to be asleep at night, so your body reverts to that. So I don't think trying to train yourself to to stay up all night before an event is going to work. People can just deal with it better than others, and that's one of the many limiting factors on these races. There's so much that some people have got going for them that other people don't, but other people have strength in other areas. So it's hard to pinpoint anyone that's going to come out of it well.
It's super exciting for you guys, and especially representing Scotland, where I'm just conscious of the time for you, and sort of almost at the end. Is there any advice, say, maybe getting to that next level in representing Scotland? Is there something that has gotten you to that next level?
Yeah, I mean, I've kind of graduated up from the ultras. Like I say, the Jedburgh Three Peaks was 38 miles and 3 hills. I've gone on, and I mean that's without being disrespectful. I could probably turn up and do that any day of the week now if I was given the time and just my general fitness and having done it before. But I mean, I've graduated up through the ranks of that. I've gone up to 50 miles and then 70 miles and then 100 miles, and I just have that fitness now and that ability to run those distances, which I know sounds crazy to normal people. When you say you're going out for a training run and you come back 30 miles later, and you're like, when did going for a training run turn into 30 miles? But it's all relative to what you're doing at the time. So by getting to that level, that's kind of what got me selected for Scotland. I was selected for Scotland on the back of doing a backyard ultra last year, where I finished third and I did 133 miles. That got me onto the leaderboard and qualifying for Scotland. So, previous question, I think this event coming up, the Four Nations, is going to be into the 48-hour mark anyway, if you're wanting to get near the top. Could be more, and that's the beauty of the backyard. You could win that event with 24 hours, or you could lose it with 50 hours. It can go on for as long as the people running go on. The last one standing, and the last one standing is only the last one standing when the second last one drops. You're very dependent on other people.
What do you estimate, or are you gunning for something, or what are you thinking?
Well, I want to win. I want to win. I mean, the third place finish that I got at Rasselblock last year is the highest I've ever placed in any race. Drop out of that because I injured myself, which was kind of gutting at the time. But I just think I've got more in me, so I want to win. But it's not going to be easy. Because it is the Four Nations Championships. You've got the top guys and girls who are in that event at the moment. They're all going to be there, and they're all going to want to win as well. So I want to win as a country, but I also want to win as an individual. So we'll just have to wait and see. It depends on who's there on the day and who's fit on the day and who it just goes right for.
So you cycling in your last round of training, or are you tapering? Is it 3 weeks out, did you say?
Yeah, it's 3 weeks out. I fortunately or unfortunately got a holiday coming up, so I'm going to be lying on a sun lounger by a pool for the next 2 weeks, which has warned me against the multiple visits to the buffet and the free bar, which is going to be very tempting while we're away. Also going to be a good chance to just relax and taper down nicely, get a couple of runs in, but nothing huge, nothing too taxing, and just get ready to go because the race is 2 days after we come back from holiday. So yeah, so no massive eating, no massive over drinking, no sunburn. That would be good. So.
That's fun. Well, we're just about to finish up. Is there anything you want to tell the listener? Anything you want to share? Any advice? Anything at all?
In terms of advice, I think you have to do it because you love it. I think it's that's the reason I run. I don't really do it to prove anything or to win anything. Like I say, the highest I've ever placed is third in something, and it was still a DNF. So I got no podium place for that either. So I'm not doing it for accolades. I know some people like to go out and prove something. The reason I run ultras is because I love it. and the people that are involved with it. So I'd say you just have to enjoy it and do it because you want to, not because you're trying to prove something.
You learnt to love it after Jedburgh.
Yeah, it's taken a while to love it. It's you're not always going to love it, but it's not going to be bad forever either. It's going to get better. So it's a pain. Embrace the suffering because it will get better.
Brilliant, brilliant. Well, Ross, where can we follow you at all, or can we follow the race? Do we keep an eye on your Instagram? Where can we find more about you?
Yeah, I tend to. I'm quite a social media tart, so I quite like to post on Instagram about running quite a lot, because it takes the pressure off Alice's ears listening about it, because she's not that interested in my running. My kids certainly aren't interested in it either. So Roscoe Runs, it's ROSCORUNS on Instagram, and that's where most of my running chat goes. So to follow the backyard, probably on Facebook if you just search for Four Nations Backyard.
Well, Ross, I really appreciate you taking the time to speak to me today. And for you, the listener, I hope you've enjoyed Ross's conversation. If you're looking for a bit more advice, I'd ask you to look in the show notes and perhaps think about joining the Ultra Dad community. And Ross, I just want to say thank you very much again, and I really appreciate it.
No worries. Any excuse to talk about running.
Thanks, mate.
No worries.